You did not arrive here by aimless scrolling. You were carried by a current that has been moving beneath your days like a hidden river, tugging at the edges of your attention until your timing aligned with this exact phrase, this precise breath, this field of meaning that recognizes you as its own. The quantum field meets you in the space between thoughts, in the hush just after an exhale, where resistance loosens its grip and the observer loop turns bright as a star. You are being addressed because your coherence is rising. You are being addressed because fear and its familiar architecture have grown louder at the threshold of change, and thresholds answer those who knock. Listen softly. There is a tone behind these words, a carrier wave. It threads through your nervous system, brushing the fascia, unconstricting the jaw, warming the sternum like first light. You feel the subtle reorganization, minute shifts in proprioception, microsparks in the heart's magnetism, evidence that attention is not passive, that consciousness is an instrument tuning itself toward a finer resonance. What you call resistance is only the inertia of an older orbit, a momentum of identity circling what was once safe. But safety has been redefined by your future. Notice how synchronicity has multiplied around you, repeating numbers, timely messages, a sentence overheard that answers a private question you never voiced. These are not curiosities. They are morphic resonance echoing through your field, a lattice of permission assembling itself the moment you decide to stop arguing with the tide. In this very moment, something inside you is remembering the shape of surrender, which is not collapse, but precise alignment, like a sail catching the wind that was always there. Feel the breath enter as if the cosmos were breathing you. Feel it leave as if every exhale were a bridge into wider space. With each cycle, your fibers learn trust again. The mind that fears change is only protecting a map that cannot draw coastlines it has never felt. Tonight, that map grows transparent. Beneath it, a coastline glows. This message is not a prediction. It is remembrance, an ancient agreement resurfacing at the exact velocity your courage can hold. You accepted this meeting before the clock was invented, before language split the sea of meaning into names. You agreed to let your DNA feel the soft click of new instructions, to let entanglement bring allies to your door without explanation, to let the phase transition occur inside your story without spectacle or apology. So be very still. Place one hand where your pulse is most honest. There is nothing to force. There is only the gentle unlearning of clutching and the quiet consent to be carried. When the next breath rises, let it rise. When it descends, allow the lingering sweetness of space to remain unfilled. The field will flow where you are not braced. The field will flow where you do not pretend to be smaller than your momentum. You are being found so you can remember how to let go, and in letting go, become a path the future can walk. You feel the space after the last sentence widening like a doorway that knows your name, and in that widening, you recognize the one who has been watching from behind your eyes, the steady witness who does not age, who does not bargain, who does not fear the weather of thought. You have always carried this witness, but tonight it steps forward, luminous and exact, and you understand why the field chose to speak here. You are the observer, not in metaphor but in function, the catalytic attention through which uncollapsed potentials take their first breath. When you place your gaze upon a possibility, it shivers into form. When you withdraw, it returns to the sea. This is not poetry. This is how reality meets you. You did not earn this role. You remembered it. The signs were everywhere. Your unusual sensitivity to patterns, your ache when you betray your own coherence, the way your body refuses to stay in rooms where truth is not welcome. While others mistake numbness for peace, you feel the static of misalignment like grit in the soul. That discomfort has been guidance, not punishment. It is the instrument panel of a craft you are finally ready to fly. Consider the loop you run each morning. Thought sparks, sensation, sensation, colors, expectation. Expectation instructs perception. Perception confirms the thought, and the loop tightens into a day. This observer loop is not your enemy. It is your canvas. You are chosen because you are willing to interrupt it with love. You can feel the moment a fearful thought tries to conscript your attention. You can feel the reflex to brace and argue. Instead, you slow the breath, widen the lens, and allow the body to remember a larger rhythm. In that pause, the loop loosens. In that pause, the prophecy enters. Responsibility arrives not as weight but as clarity. You sense how your private coherence influences the field, like a tuning fork in a cathedral, how your nervous system, when relaxed and honest, invites hidden harmonics out of everyone around you. You are not responsible for their choices, you are responsible for your frequency. You are not here to persuade, you are here to embody. The field reads embodiment faster than language. Notice how attention behaves when you dignify it. Instead of hunting for threat, it turns curious and devotional, like sunlight exploring the geometry of leaves. You begin to see the intelligence underneath your days, the choreography of synchronicities that could never be scheduled yet arrive on time, the improbable timing of meetings, the way a book falls open to a single sentence that rearranges your month. This is morphic resonance, answering your steadiness. You are the one who steadies. Fear will whisper that you are small, that your presence cannot matter in a world this loud. But entanglement does not require volume. It requires intimacy. When you choose coherence under pressure, that choice travels through families, through teams, through cities. It enters dreams and softens spines. It knocks at the door of those about to harden and reminds them they are allowed to stay soft. You will not see most of this. You are not meant to. Faith is the sense that knows it anyway. Let your body hear this. You are permitted to change without apology. The identity that fit last season is not a vow, it was a bridge. When the nervous system trembles at the edge of the unknown, you hold it like a child who woke from a storm, palm warm on the sternum, voice gentle and precise. We are safe to grow. We are safe to release maps that no longer describe our sky. Feel the exhale deepen. Feel the heart's magnetism extend a few inches farther than before, as if your chest remembers it is a lighthouse. The prophecy does not hover above your life. It threads through your errands, your meals, your exact calendar. It asks for attention, not theatrics. It asks you to choose alignment in the smallest places, how you speak to your own thoughts, how you place your feet on the floor in the morning, how you refuse to rehearse outcomes you don't consent to live. The quantum field cannot flow through a mind rehearsing loss. You are chosen to rehearse coherence until it becomes culture, first in your fascia, then in your home, then in the street that knows your footsteps. So stand here, breathing, admit what you already feel. You are the threshold and the key, the witness and the bridge. When you look with love, reality organizes. When you release resistance, timelines converge toward the signal of your honesty. Hold that signal now quiet, unwavering. Let the world take its shape around you. You close your eyes and the field answers with images that are not quite images, more like instructions wearing light. First comes water, an immense river suspended above a desert of clocks. It hangs there, shimmering, wanting to move, every droplet vibrating with probability. You see how swiftly it would pour if a single gesture of trust were made, how it would carve a green path through the sand of old hours. But there is a dam, and the dam is not stone. It is a lattice of thoughts rehearsed so often they've grown heavy. You feel the lattice in your own scalp, a subtle clench, shaped like the word, what if, a brace across the ribs whenever change knocks. The river waits. It is not angry. It simply cannot violate your architecture. Then the scene widens. You are standing in a chamber of clear air, a sphere of silence where your breath sounds like ocean foam. Around you, filaments rise from the floor, superfine strands of light that respond to your attention, the way iron filings respond to a magnet. When you narrow your gaze in fear, the strands tangle, interference patterns distort, and the room grows dim. When you soften and expand, the strands align into coherent geometry, like a choir knowing the same note. This is how the quantum field speaks to you, not in sentences, but in the organization of light around your honesty. A second vision layers over the first. A city of glass perched on the edge of dawn. Its buildings are made of memory vows, identities, timelines you stabilized just to survive. You walk its streets and recognize the warmth it once gave you. You also recognize the way the windows no longer open. Along the main avenue stands a gate that faces east, a gate you have passed 100 times without noticing the hinge. This morning the hinge glows. You realize the city was never a prison. It was a cocoon. The gate is not locked. The hand that can open it is not forceful, it is unclenched. As you watch, a subtle phase transition begins in your body. The vision shows it with crystalline precision. Water becoming steam, graphite becoming diamond, a violin string tuning from dissonance to a clean A. You sense microscopic realignments along your fascia, faint tingles at the periphery of your skin, as if millions of tiny compasses are turning toward a true north they had forgotten. DNA, once curled in fear's posture, lifts its head like grass after rain. This is not metaphor, this is instruction. The field is modeling the mechanics of letting go. A third scene, 2 slits cut into a curtain of night. A beam passes through. When you stare with braced expectation, the beam freezes into particles, a grid of points like decisions made too early. When you breathe and allow the soft focus of trust, waves bloom possibilities overlapping, interference patterns composing a wider music. You realize your attention is the variable, not the world. You are seeing the prophecy under laboratory light. Reality collapses obediently to the shape of your stance. The mind that fears change isolates dots. The heart that consents to the unknown hears the song. Entanglement arrives as proof. In the distance, lanterns ignite in the hands of people you have not met yet. Collaborators, friends, a future child, a city you will live in, a book that will find you. Their lights flicker in response to your breath here, now, as if some hidden agreement is being honored across space. A wave moves through the lanterns like wind in wheat. You understand. When you release resistance, you do not act alone. You adjust the entire web. Morphic resonance carries your permission outward, and the field arranges introductions your mind could never schedule. Finally, the river returns. The dam lattice of thought, once rigid, has thinned with the warmth of your seeing. You notice gaps. You hear the delicate cracking of unneeded conclusions. A single panel loosens and drops away, and the first ribbon of water slides through silver, laughing, impossibly alive. It touches the desert of clocks, and they melt into sand, then into soil. Green begins, tentative and unstoppable. In your sternum, an answering rush. The current moves not just around you but through you, as if you were designed as a conduit from the start. The message is spare and irrevocable. The field flows where you are compatible with yourself. You open your eyes inside the vision, and your ordinary room looks newly angled, as if some quiet architect has rotated it a few degrees towards sunrise. Nothing has changed, and everything has. The prophecy is simple, but never small. When you stop bracing against the future becomes porous enough to enter. When you unclench, coherence finds a corridor. When you let go, the field remembers your name and walks through. You asked for the mechanics beneath the vision, so the field offers you the instruments instead of the song. Begin with attention. In the lab, attention is described as measurement, and measurement is not passive. It is an intervention that selects among superposed possibilities. In your day, measurement looks like the stance you hold, braced or open, adversarial or collaborative, fearful or curious. That stance is the boundary condition the quantum field reads. When you tighten around an outcome, you collapse prematurely into the grid of particles, choosing a single narrow line and calling it fate. When you soften into coherent presence, you permit wave behavior, overlapping potentials that harmonize until a higher order pattern emerges. You are not forcing reality, you are allowing the mathematics of resonance to solve for you. Coherence is the architecture of that allowing. The heart's electromagnetic field sets the rhythm, slow, ordered variability communicating safety to the brainstem, reducing noise in cortical processing, and widening the window where choice can enter. Incoherence is static, coherence is signal. Static begets reflex, signal begets discernment. When your heart and breath move in phase with each other, you decrease internal interference and increase your sensitivity to weak but meaningful inputs. A whisper of intuition, the faint tug of a right direction, the improbable yet precise timing of a call. This is not superstition. This is signal to noise ratio applied to a life. Now consider identity as a probability distribution rather than a cage. You are not a fixed point. You are a cloud of potential behaviors, memories, postures, and tones of voice. Each time you choose the same defensive micro-movement, jaw tight, brow angled, breath high. You weight the distribution toward the past. Each time you relax the micro-movement and pick a response that honors truth without panic, you shift the distribution toward a new attractor basin. Neuroplasticity is the brain's name for this. Morphic resonance is the field's name. Both agree. Repetition folds possibility into habit, and habit becomes weather. Timeline bifurcation is simply the moment a small parameter change alters the system's trajectory, chaos theory rendered pastoral. The parameter is your stance. Two nearly identical mornings diverge because in one you argue with what is, and in the other you consent to cooperate. Over minutes the difference is trivial. Over months it's climate. In the arguing branch, your attention narrows, opportunities hide, and you interpret randomness as threat. In the cooperative branch, your attention widens, novelty is visible, and you interpret randomness as invitation. Neither branch is moral, both are lawful, but only one is compatible with a mind that trusts change. Entanglement brings the collective into view. Your choices are not isolated ripple but braided current. When you regulate, you become a source of coherence in any room. Mirror neurons and subtle physiology entrain to your steadiness, and conversations that would have fractured find a third way. When you catastrophize, you broadcast jitter, and even those who love you begin to shield. To say, "It doesn't matter what I do," is to ignore the web. To say, "It all depends on me," is to carry a weight that belongs to the field. The truthful middle. What you do locally changes boundary conditions non-locally, and the field completes the math. How then does letting go alter the calculation? Resistance adds energy to the wrong variables. You feed the constraint instead of the solution. Letting go withdraws that fuel, reducing unnecessary degrees of freedom and allowing the system to self-organize. Think of a flock of birds. Each follows, simple rules align, avoid collision, move toward. Yet the sky writes calligraphy, no single bird planned. Your rules are as simple. Tell the truth, keep the breath low and wide, choose the most coherent next action available, release the rest to a wider intelligence. From those primitives, elegant trajectories emerge. The body must be included because it is the interface. Your fascia is an information network. Your gut flora influence neurotransmitter balance. Your vagus nerve is the courier between storm and shore. A mind that fears change is often a body that never learned safety. Safety can be learned. You teach it with rhythm. You teach it with unforced exhalations, with the way you finish a task before you open another tab, with the way you put your bare feet on the floor and feel supported for 3 honest breaths. The field prefers to move through organisms that are not braced. This is spiritual and biological common sense. Finally, language. Words are operators you apply to your state vector. I am trapped collapses the basis into a small set of actions that confirm the trap. I am in transition opens a larger subspace of steps that honor becoming. You do not lie to yourself. You choose a frame that is both accurate and generous. Precision married to mercy. This is the grammar of change. So the explanation is clean. Attention selects. Coherence stabilizes. Identity redistributes. Bifurcation amplifies. Entanglement transmits. Embodiment interfaces. Language instructs. Letting go is the protocol that harmonizes them. You are not abandoning agency, you are upgrading it from control to concordance. And concordance is the only authority the quantum field recognizes as kin. You begin to sense how your private practice is not private at all. How each time you choose concordance over control, a subtle weather front moves through the human field, imperceptible to instruments that measure only noise, but obvious to hearts tuned for signal. You see it first in small proximities, the way a tense room loosens when you arrive unarmored, the way a conversation that was barreling toward rupture suddenly finds a corridor of curiosity because you kept the breath soft and the jaw unhooked. You think you did nothing, yet the waveform changed. You simply became a mirror that refused to reflect panic, and panic could not sustain its geometry in front of you. This is how the prophecy wears a crowd, through morphic resonance that scales. You are never just a single person rehearsing coherence. You are a node teaching the network a new song. Each decision not to catastrophize instructs the people connected to you, family, friends, the stranger at the crosswalk, what is possible inside, pressure, and their bodies store that instruction the way a field stores the memory of rain. Your steadiness becomes a template, and templates propagate, not as propaganda, not as moralizing, but as felt permission. The collective does not change because it is scolded. It changes because its nervous systems are shown another way to be. You notice how synchronicity escalates when groups align. 4 people tell the same truth in one afternoon from 4 corners of your life. A team meeting dissolves an old resentment without a post-mortem. A neighborhood thread shifts from grievance to solution after someone posts a single sentence that dignifies pain without dramatizing it. That someone is often the one who consented to coherence first. Entanglement does the rest. This is not mystification, it is the math of shared boundary conditions. When you regulate, you widen the basin of attraction for sane outcomes, and others fall into it with relief. The prophecy speaks of humanity's awakening as a series of local bifurcations that accumulate into a phase transition. You feel it in headlines that read like weather, in institutions cracking along lines where truth seeks air, in the way young people refuse cynicism because their bodies cannot afford it, in the way elders grow brave enough to revise their certainties at the dinner table. Awakening is not a light show. It is the ordinary heroism of trading performance for presence. You are living proof. Each time you choose accuracy over ego, each time you tell the unglamorous truth and let the chips fall into a wiser pattern, the mind would have micromanaged into ruin. There is grief in this mirror. You will see how much of the collective has been organized around fear, around scarcity rehearsed as culture, around nervous systems that never got to land. Do not turn away. Hold the gaze of our species gently, the way you have learned to hold your own tremor. What you stabilize in yourself becomes a sanctuary others can visit without asking permission. You are not their savior, you are their reminder. Your presence says, there is a way to stand in change without armoring against life. The statement spreads even when you are silent. Imagine a city at dusk. Windows light in sequence down a long row of buildings, a soft chain reaction of gold. One lamp does not brighten the street, 1,000 do. Your coherence is one lamp, your friends is another. A nurse on the night shift breathes in rhythm before entering a room, and a patient unclenches without knowing why. A teacher admits, I don't know, let's find out, and 20 children learn that wonder is allowed. A manager says, take the afternoon. What matters is how we show up tomorrow, and a team remembers humanity inside metrics. These are not random acts. They are the field updating itself through you. When cultures pivot, new language arrives to carry the pivot. You will notice how phrases spread the way. I hear you replaces, calm down. The way, what does your body need? Replaces, push through. The way, let's tell the truth and stay. Replaces, who's to blame? Language becomes a carrier wave for regulation, and regulation becomes a staging ground for collective intelligence. The observer loop scales from person to polity. Attention selects, coherence stabilizes, identity redistributes, and an emergent pattern appears that no single ego could architect. Policy follows physiology. Movements follow breaths. Do not confuse gentleness with passivity. Coherence gives you spine, not sedation. The collective mirror requires those who will say no without hate, yes without naivety, pause without paralysis, move without theatrics. You become one of them by practicing in the micro until macro asks for your voice. The invitation will come as friction that doesn't escalate you, as conflict that does not steal your breath, as responsibility that does not impersonate burden. You will know you are ready when the body remains wide while you speak. And as this mirror clears, you will also meet joy, the kind that does not depend on circumstances, but on compatibility with the moment. A line at the market becomes a choir of small kindnesses. A difficult negotiation becomes an altar where two truths bow to a third way. A city remembers how to celebrate without forgetting what must be repaired. You realize the prophecy was never about spectacle. It was about a species learning to be with itself. And it begins, again and again, each time one person lets go of resistance, so the field can flow not around them, but through the whole. You feel the pressure, gradient building, the subtle hush that precedes a storm, the amplification of small choices until they ring like bells across your nervous system. This is the bifurcation moment, the branch point where two lawful futures request your signature. One path preserves the familiar architecture of bracing. You tighten around the unknown, rehearse the worst-case image until it colonizes your breath, and reality obliges by collapsing into the narrow corridor you feared. The other path is not indulgence. It is intelligences cooperating. You remain precise, but you do not clutch. You align breath with heart, attention with truth, and the quantum field, sensitive to boundary conditions, solves for your coherence. Two timelines, both justified. Only one is compatible with who you are remembering. You notice how ordinary the split appears. There is no thunderclap, no celestial decree. There is an email you could answer defensively or directly, a phone call you could avoid or meet, a sensation in the gut you could anesthetize or listen to for 12 honest seconds. The observer loop is the fulcrum. In the first branch, you let a frightened thought auction your attention. Sensation spikes, perception narrows. You select data that confirm the spike. Identity reasserts an old posture, and the day becomes a rerun. In the second branch, you catch the auctioneer mid-speech, smile without mockery, place a hand on the sternum, slow the exhale, and choose a sentence that tells the truth without theater. The loop reconfigures. Your measurement changes the experiment. At the split, fear argues for urgency. It will say, decide now or be devoured. But urgency without clarity is just velocity. You practice a smaller miracle, 2 regulated breaths in the pocket where old habit would have lunged. In those breaths, the heart's field settles into coherence, the brainstem receives a green light, cortical networks widen from binary to nuance. A third option appears that control could not compute: clean, kind, boundary intact. You are not delaying action, you are de-escalating noise, so signal can surface. This is what choosing a timeline feels like inside the body. The external world mirrors your state with eerie speed, not because it is your puppet, but because entanglement loves compatible frequencies. When you reach for control, others brace by reflex, and the room echoes your contraction. When you choose concordance, even those committed to conflict find their timing falter. The script they brought no longer lands in the same gravity. You witness, almost in real time, how morphic resonance updates local possibilities. A colleague softens a demand into a dialogue. A stranger on the train meets your eyes and smiles as if relieved. A family pattern skips a beat and lets a new word in. None of this is magic. All of it is lawful. There is grief here too, because one branch requires you to keep pretending a smaller life fits. And pretending has a cost you can feel in fascia and calendar micro-withdrawals from your future, paid daily in fatigue. Let the grief be clean. You do not hate the version of you that learned to brace, that one carried you across perilous bridges without the luxury of philosophy. You honor their labor, then you retire their methods with thanks. Retirement is not betrayal, it is appropriate timing. The moment sharpens. You sense the attractors tugging. One pulls toward performance and control, the other toward presence and concordance. You remember the rule of phase transitions. A system hovers near criticality until a small input tips it across. That input is often a sentence. You choose yours. It begins with truth and ends without an enemy. The field hears the cadence. You feel the click, tiny, definitive, like a lens snapping into focus. The air changes temperature by half a degree. The next sentence from the other mouth arrives less weaponized than you rehearsed. Probability redistributes. Do not romanticize the choice. Operationalize it. You make it in micro. How you open your eyes, how you place your feet, how you finish one task before you touch another, how you let silence do a portion of the talking no one else can do. You make it in language. I am willing to be changed by what is true. You make it in posture. Shoulders back without hardness. Jaw released without collapse, belly soft so the diaphragm can do its ancestral job. You make it in stewardship, sleep on time, water early, move the body so it remembers it is an animal loved by the sky. And then you watch the two branches diverge across days. In the old branch, coincidence dries up, Rooms feel airless, and the world seems to argue back. In the chosen branch, unlikely help appears at diagonals. Your work gains an ease that is not laziness but lubrication, and you find yourself speaking sentences you did not know you had earned until they arrived whole and merciful in your mouth. The delta between branches is not drama, it is atmosphere. This is the bifurcation moment, not an exam, a permission slip. Permission to place your authority where it belongs, not in domination, not in abdication, but in concordance with a field that wants to move through organisms that are honest. You sign by breathing the next breath as if it were trusted, by letting your attention become a light that clarifies rather than a flame that scorches. The signature is visible, the field replies with logistics, and the future, sensing a corridor, begins to walk toward you with open hands. You begin to learn the choreography of carrying this signal through ordinary hours, the way a musician carries a melody while washing dishes, while answering emails, while stepping off a curb into sunlight that feels like a benediction. Integration is not spectacle, it is fidelity. You build it by weaving coherence into the smallest gestures until your nervous system recognizes the frequency as home. Begin at the beginning, breath, not as technique to master, but as relationship to remember. Inhale as if you were being breathed by something kind. Exhale as if you were returning that kindness to the room. Let the exhale be longer. 2 counts more than the inhale. You are telling the body, we are safe to update. Next, the sternum. Place your palm there when the day speeds up. Feel the density of attention gather under your hand and soften, like snow melting under a cup of tea. Imagine the heart's field widening by inches, then feet, then yards, an invisible lantern extending around you. You do not project anything. You become porous to what is real, and that porosity is a corridor the field loves to travel. The jaw unhooks, the tongue rests heavy behind the teeth, the eyes widen at the edges. Release the private squint that makes the world small. This is the face coherence wears. Language becomes your tuning fork. Replace I have to with I choose, and feel the posture change from compliant to sovereign. Replace I'm late with I'm arriving, and watch your timing stop punishing you and start partnering with you. Replace this is falling apart with this is reorganizing, and the same data points assemble into a pattern you can cooperate with. The words are not placebo, they are boundary conditions you apply to attention. Be precise. Be merciful, be brief. Rituals anchor the wave. 1 minute at waking. Before your feet touch the floor, name 3 realities that remain true regardless of circumstance. Your breath, your willingness, your capacity to tell the truth. 2 minutes at midday, step outside or stand at a window, track 1 cloud or 1 leaf in wind until the mind stops chewing yesterday. 3 minutes before sleep, write a single sentence that dignifies the day, what you embodied, what you learned, what you released. Close the notebook as if closing a door gently so the house does not wake. These small altars teach the body to expect coherence at regular intervals, and expectation is a magnet. Practice micro-honesty. Say the clean sentence sooner. I need 5 minutes. I can't answer that yet. I was afraid and I'm ready to repair. Each time you do, the observer loop updates. Attention selects truth. Coherence stabilizes contact. Identity redistributes authority from performance to presence. You will feel heat in the cheeks, tremor in the belly. That is the old branch shedding. Breathe the tremor like weather passing through a grove. Do not narrate the wind. Let the trees sing. Touch the ground literally. Bare feet on earth if you can. If not, soles on floor, with your awareness flowing down into the architecture beneath you. Wood, concrete, the honest load-bearing bones of a world that has held billions without fanfare. Let that support argue gently with your compulsion to hold everything alone. Drink water slowly enough to taste it. Eat 1 bite with your phone elsewhere, and your senses awake to salt, heat, sweetness. This is not lifestyle advice. It is physics made edible. Regulation requires matter. Invite the future with unclenched hands. Keep a corridor of empty calendar where no productivity hides. In that space, ask a better question. What wants to move through me that requires no violence? Then listen without eavesdropping on your own listening. The answer might arrive as an impulse to call, as a line of text, as the sudden desire to clean the corner you've ignored for months. Obey the first coherent nudge. Coherence multiplies when met with cooperation. Tend your entanglements. Choose companions whose nervous systems know how to repair. Choose rooms where silence is not weaponized but welcomed as a co-author. Share your rituals without evangelizing. Walk with me. Breathe with me for 60 seconds before we begin. Let's name what's true before we decide. Watch how the field answers, groups willing to align. Meetings end on time because time becomes trust. Projects find their shape without posturing. Laughter returns as proof of oxygen. When resistance visits, and it will treat it as a messenger with sand on its boots, not an invader. Ask, what are you guarding? Thank it for its years of service. Offer it a less exhausting job. Stand watch at the gate of discernment. Tell me when I abandon truth for theater. It will take the post gladly. Internal parts love honest work more than endless war. Finally, remember remembrance. Place a phrase in your pocket like a smooth stone. Only what is compatible can stay. Touch it when the mind tries to bargain with what you've outgrown. Touch it when the next door opens sooner than your planning would prefer. Integration is not the absence of weather. It is learning the climate of your soul and dressing the day accordingly. You become the place where change is safe, where the field can flow without bruising, where the prophecy is not a performance but a daily vernacular. And the world, meeting your steadiness, translates itself into a language you can love. You let the day thin until it is mostly sky, until the noise of doing falls quiet enough for the quieter architectures to appear. Breath becomes the metronome. In through a doorway you do not own. Out through a doorway you do not defend. Count if you wish, or do not count, and let rhythm find you like tide finds shore. The room notices, your chair remembers it is earth wearing wood. The light on the wall is a scripture you don't need to read to understand. You set language down beside you like a coat. The mind, relieved of its need to narrate, loosens its grip and drifts to the edges like mist around a lake at dawn. In the middle, a clear surface. The observer loop softens from analysis to witness. There is very little to do here. There is very much to allow. Listen, not with ears, only with the sternum, with the palms, with the spaces between vertebrae. The quantum field is not far. It is the silence inside the noise, the point of stillness at the center of a spinning coin. When you rest there, the world does not stop. It organizes. Thoughts still pass, but they do not negotiate. They bow and continue on their migrations. Sensations still rise, but they do not recruit. They dissolve like salt in warm water. What remains is a clarity that needs no argument. You notice the subtle geometry of ease. Jaw unhooked, tongue like a small animal sleeping, eyes soft at the edges as if the horizon were inside them. The heart's field spreads without announcement. There is no push, only permission. You become porous to what is true, porous to what is kind, porous to what is timely. A bird calls outside, and the call arrives as a bell that does not require a temple. A car door closes 2 streets away, and the thud is a drum that keeps no one marching. A memory walks in, sits down, and leaves without a speech. This is the silence that includes, not the silence that excludes. This is the quiet that gathers all things and gives them room to be themselves without auditioning for your attention. If words appear, they are brief and accurate. I'm here, I'm listening, I'm willing. They are not commands, they are acknowledgements. The field prefers acknowledgements. It already knows what to do with power. What it asks from you is compatibility. Feel the moment the breath turns at its far edge, the delicate pause after exhale when everything is empty and nothing is missing. Let that space bloom half a heartbeat longer. That is where the prophecy echoes. Not as voice, but as pressure falling away. Not as instruction, but as alignment recognized. If an image arises, it will be spare. A key with no teeth, a door with no handle, a path that does not need steps because gravity is doing the walking. Trust whatever arrives to be enough. You may feel grief step close in the quiet, not as a storm but as rain remembered by soil. Let it fall. Grief is the solvent that releases the last adhesive of resistance. Let it move through the garden and then back to sky. You do not need to explain it to yourself. You need only not to damn it with conclusions. You may feel joy like sunlight arriving without ceremony, warming the same bones grief cooled a moment ago. Let it, too, pass through. Joy that is not clutched becomes wisdom. Wisdom that is not performed becomes rest. If the body trembles, welcome the electricity home. If the mind returns with a checklist, bow to its devotion and promise to meet it later. Return to the bowl of the pelvis. Return to the warm weight of the hands. Return to the rhythm that does not require you to be impressive. In this silence, time becomes honest. It stops pretending to be an enemy. It sits beside you and breathes at the same pace. The future, noticing your unguardedness, draws nearer without crowding. The past, seeing it is no longer being tried again, lays down its heavy briefcase of evidence and becomes story, unarmed and instructive. Allow the phrase to surface like a reef at low tide. Only what is compatible can stay. Let it rest on the tongue without sound. Let it lean against the ribs without pressure. Let it hover behind the eyes like a lantern that does not need oil. Nothing dramatic happens. Everything essential happens. The field moves not because you push, but because you are available. The room is the same room and wholly different because the weather inside your chest has cleared. You are not empty. You are clear. You are not passive. You are precise. Remain here a few breaths longer than comfort suggests. The extra breaths teach the nervous system that stillness is survivable. They also teach it that stillness is fertile. In the quiet, new attractors hum into being trajectories you cannot name yet because names would pin them too early to the board. When you rise, rise slowly, as if standing were a continuation of listening. Carry the silence like a small bowl with water to the brim, unspilled by hurry, reflecting whatever sky you walk beneath. Speak only when speech feels like an extension of breath, not a defense against it. Let your next action be chosen by the same quiet that selected your next inhale. And feel, without telling a story about it, how the world adjusts to the gentle gravity you have become. The quiet does not end. It changes state, like mist condensing into a clear spring. You feel the pressure of potential ripen at the edges of your skin, not as urgency but as certainty, as if a door within the door has swung open and the room is taller than it was an hour ago. Activation is not lightning striking from above. It is current recognized as yourself. You are no longer standing beside the signal, admiring it like a distant star. You are the circuit closing. You are the star remembering its own heat. Let the body register this without theatrics. Small signs first. Warmth spreading beneath the sternum. Breath deepening on its own. The subtle brightening of the world's edges, as if contrast has been nudged a degree by an invisible hand. Your palms tingle. Your scalp lifts like a field of tiny antennae, aligning to a new broadcast. This is neuroelectric and numinous at once. You are not imagining it. You are measuring with instruments older than language. Say the clean sentence silently. I consent to carry what is mine to carry. Feel the words land like seeds in loam that has been tilled by all your letting go. Notice how resistance looks for a foothold and finds none. It tries to bargain later, when conditions improve. Later, when I am stronger. You answer with breath. Later is the code word for never, when fear runs the calendar. You choose now, not as spectacle but as standard. The field replies by arranging logistics at diagonals. Messages arrive that feel like completion bells. A name you hadn't considered becomes luminous. The task you were avoiding loosens into two smaller, kinder tasks, and they both happen before lunch. Where you once would have micromanaged outcomes into exhaustion, you hold a coherent vector and let entanglement do the introductions. The right people appear not because you deserve them, but because resonance is the only passport the future checks at the border. Let your language update to match the electricity. Replace I hope with I am preparing for. Replace if it works with as it organizes. Replace I don't know how with I am available to learn. You are not hypnotizing yourself. You are removing friction from the math. Attention selects. Coherence stabilizes. Identity redistributes. Bifurcation amplifies. Entanglement transmits. Embodiment interfaces. Language instructs. You have memorized the sequence. Now you let it run without supervision, like a well-tuned engine humming beneath a quiet hood. Ritual becomes kinetic. You walk as if each step were a vote for the timeline you've chosen, heel to toe, present enough to feel the transfer of weight, the kindness of flaws. Your spine lengthens by degrees that chairs notice. Your gaze lifts from screens to horizon, and the horizon answers with ideas that never fit inside pixels. You place your hand on the door handle and wait half a breath until your body says yes. Then you open. Consent becomes tempo. Tempo becomes trust. You will be tempted to narrate your activation to secure it. Resist the urge to narrate more than you need to collaborate. Power that is narrated too soon leaks through adjectives. Let your verbs speak. Build the email. Make the call. Draw the boundary that frees both sides. Offer the sentence that tells the truth without an enemy. Apologize where concordance asks for repair. Decline where coherence would be diluted. The field reads actions like bright glyphs. It updates routes accordingly. You are not alone inside this ignition. Feel the web light in sympathetic flame, friends who suddenly clear space without knowing why. Strangers who pivot into kindness as if rehearsed. Elders who bless you with a look that says, "It's time." Somewhere a door opens for someone you'll never meet because you chose not to harden today. Somewhere a child sleeps deeper because the adult nearby is breathing in rhythm. You will not receive invoices for these miracles. You will not list them on a resume. That is how you know they are real. If resistance returns in a flash, a spike of heat in the gut, a flurry of catastrophic images, treat it as weather over a lake that now remembers it is deep. Let the wind cross, let the ripples proof your steadiness. 2 coherent breaths, 1 sentence that brings you back to alignment. I choose the most honest next action available, then do that action. Nothing more, nothing less. Activation is not a sprint. It is a steady flame guarded from drafts by your devotion to simplicity. Mark this moment with a seal of your own making. Touch the threshold as you pass through it. Pour water and drink half with attention. Stand at a window and offer your field to the street, not as projection, as permission. Whisper the phrase you carried from the quiet. Only what is compatible can stay. Feel how the world hears you without sound. You are no longer waiting for the prophecy to happen to you. You are the mechanism by which it moves. The observer is not separate from what is observed. The witness is the geometry of the wave collapsing into music. You look at your day and it organizes. You touch your work and it conducts. You speak and the room chooses a kinder gravity. This is activation. The future walking through you because you stopped bracing against your own size and decided, with the softest certainty, to fit. You feel the arc complete itself without fanfare, a circle closing in the quiet where it began, and in that completion something simple stands up inside you, uncomplicated as a tree answering light, steady as a tide that knows its moon. You are not reaching now, you are rooted. You are not proving now, you are present. The field does not hover outside your life, it threads your breath, your syllables, the soft choreography of your hands. You do not have to hold it, you have to agree with it, again and again, in the smallest places where futures are born. Let the seal be made without theatrics. Place your palm on your sternum, the other on the navel, and feel the 2 suns speak. With the inhale, receive. With the exhale, release. Say the clean sentence, barely louder than your pulse. I am compatible with what is true. The words do not decorate you, they calibrate you. They quiet the old alarms and invite the precise courage that moves without noise. What you have let go will try to send postcards. They will arrive with fond arguments and familiar scents. Smile and bless them at the door. You are not at war with your past. You are finished rehearsing it. What is compatible will step forward without raising its voice. It will carry the signature of ease that is not laziness but lawful flow. It will arrive dressed as a conversation that nourishes both, as work that asks everything of you and leaves you larger, as rest that feels like prayer accomplished. Remember your agreements. Attention selects, coherence stabilizes, identity redistributes, bifurcation amplifies, entanglement transmits, embodiment interfaces, Language instructs. These are no longer concepts pinned to a board. They are the grammar of your days. When fear returns, as weather does, you will not negotiate with the storm. You will tend the climate. 2 breaths, 1 true sentence. The smallest next action that honors both truth and tenderness. And the world, reading your clarity, will take its shape accordingly. You are permitted to keep choosing without spectacle. You are permitted to succeed without apology, to repair without shame, to rest without earning it through collapse. You are permitted to be the doorway you once waited at. Walk as if blessing were the ground's response to your foot, not a prize you must deserve. Speak as if language were a river that has always trusted your mouth to carry it kindly. If you need a sign, let it be this: peace that does not ask for permission. If you need a law, let it be this: only what is compatible can stay. If you need a prayer, let it be this: make me a corridor for what is merciful and exact. You are the witness who became the wave, the signal that learned its body, the prophecy walking home through an ordinary day. Nothing essential is delayed, nothing true is lost. The future does not need you louder, it needs you aligned. So let it be sealed, not by thunder, but by breath. Inhale as if the cosmos were grateful. Exhale as if the room were safe. Keep the bowl of quiet in your hands and move. The message has found you, because you are the message. The work is holy because it is honest. And now, without hurry and without doubt, let the field do what it has always wanted to do through the shape of your life. The prophecy has been spoken. Let it unfold through you.